Right. So, for those who do know me already, welcome and thanks for joining. For those who don't know me, my name is Howard Locke. I'm a senior business analyst, circa 25 years, a career in sort of IT change and transformation, lots of different project types, like I'm sure a lot of people on this call. I first met David back in November 2024, and David first introduced me to BVMF. Obviously, I'd never heard of it before, pretty much like you guys here on the call now. David started to show me some of the models and the techniques and guided me through them. And I thought, wow, this is different. In my 25-year career back then, I'd never seen anything quite like it. And as David showed me more models, I thought, wow, I could see lots of power in them. I could see lots of usability, and I thought, right, this should be out there. Why isn't it out there? So David and I had a discussion. We agreed that it should be fully sort of commercialized and introduced into the marketplace. And we did a bit of a VIP pilot launch back in April 2025, where we invited about 24 industry experts, ranging from BAs up to sort of C-suite level. We had 550 years of experience in the room. It was very well received over the 2 days. And then since then, we've been converting the material that David had been creating for a very long time into training material. And we had our first official course back in November 2025. Dinesh is actually on this call, so he was part of that first actual launch back in November 2025. And now we're part of this commercialization journey. So David will come on. We've got 3 courses lined up for this year. I'd just like to say, if you can just mute your mics for the moment. David is going to, I'm just going to let Jay in actually. So David is going to do the presentation. What we encourage is, if you've got any questions, then just put them in the chat, and then we'll get to them at the end. Sometimes I might call out the odd one if it's pertinent, but we normally sort of take questions at the end. Welcome, Jay. I can see Jay's just joined, so welcome, Jay. So mic's off, or mic's muted, I should say. Questions in the chat, and I'd now like to hand over to David P. Jacobs.
Thank you, Howard. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm going to...
Hello. Oh, I could hear. Might have to go on mute, Jay, if that was you or Brian. I don't know if it was Brian or Jay.
Right. Hello, everybody, especially little people that I can hear out there. I'm going to take you back in the mist of time to 1981, when I was a much younger man, and as the market research officer for a construction company, I had to write some software because we got a little computer. Well, I say little, it was a huge, great, heavy thing, but there were no software for it. So I computerized our monthly sales and marketing statistics. And a few weeks later, the deputy managing director phoned me up, a very nice man, and he said, "Well done, David, you've really helped our business." That was 1981. And he said, "You've really helped our business." Well, I thought that was what it was all about. Well, as we went through the 80s and the 90s and thereafter, it seemed that that was not necessarily what was always going on. As we went through the 80s, I continued to develop a real business IT mediation skill, which became multifaceted. And then it was all about value, because mediating between business and IT, however you do it, is a means to an end, whereas the end, of course, is getting value. And in this environment, it's not a given. It's not that easy to know, when you do all the stuff, that you're going to get a lot of lovely net success and value. So what have we got here that we're presenting to you this evening? Well, let me tell you another story. I'm sure you all know about Sir James Dyson, and in the 1980s, he was looking at vacuum cleaners with his very clever engineering head and going, "This is ridiculous," because the technology, as it was then and had been since early in the 20th century, was pretty terrible. 50% of the suction of a vacuum cleaner was just disappearing before you even switched it on, because it was a very crude technology with a, do you remember this? I remember when I was a kid, like there's a brown bag and you had a little rubber thing that held it on. So he came up with the cyclonic approach to this whole new technology. And that new technology had no loss of suction. And that was James's sort of mantra, and it was true. So he'd like literally doubled the amount of suction that a vacuum cleaner could have. Now, what we've got here, in essence, this is a service, his was a physical product, but this is very similar. In business IT projects over the last few decades, pretty well since it started after the Second World War and came up through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, half the value or potential value of these projects is just disappearing before they even start. And then it gets worse. So we have a way of having no loss of value here, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what we're going to show you. Now I always have to do this with my slides, even though I did it before. That's slightly strange. I will be right. There we go. Right. So how would you like, as a business value maximization specialist, which is somebody, a professional that uses business value maximization framework, to get comments like this, this is a real comment that I got. I don't know anybody who translates between business and IT as well as you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. You got us more value than we thought possible. European purchasing manager for a very global multinational gas and chemicals manufacturer. A practitioner's comment here. This is a principal business analyst that I trained a few years ago, and she said, BVMF is extreme common sense. Oh, yes, it is. This is not black magic, people. This is practical common sense. She said, I wished I'd known about it years ago. Thank you very much, Elaine. Well, yes, we at BVMF Limited, Howard and I, and our team say, this is not magic. It is not black magic. It is just logic. It is common sense. We're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. Quite the reverse. We are revealing reality. So what is BVMF? The fundamental principles for maximizing value, success, and ROI from IT-enabled business process. The fundamental principles which, as I started looking at this in the 1980s and 90s and said to myself, no wonder there's a gap between business and IT, because these fundamental principles have never really been clearly defined and articulated. There are too many different, rather siloed methods going on, with project managers using Prince and business analysts using this and that and Babok and Lean and blah-de-blah. There's no nice, coherent structure here. Now, as well as a framework, BVMF is a multifaceted skill set. Yes, it is. And it's a way of working and thinking. And that way of working is that we work and drive relentlessly from value from day one, and then we never stop. That's different. Rather than running projects, getting some IT in there and then hoping for the best. It doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to show you some metrics in a moment. And it's an attitude and it's an approach which we are documenting. You will get these slides, by the way, which Howard will kindly send you after tonight. These fundamental principles are detailed and comprehensive. They're macro, micro, connective. Now, this is quite important because a lot of the methods and approaches that I've seen, they sort of assume that if you get it right at big picture level, the rest is going to follow. Again, no, it doesn't, I'm afraid. You have to track value right the way down from the vision, all the way to the detailed work that you do, and make sure that you are getting that value, business value, coming out of the other end. So there are no gaps to jeopardize optimal value, no loss of value. If Sir James doesn't mind me borrowing that phrase, I hope he doesn't. We are very original here, by the way. So BVMF was developed specifically for value, success, and ROI from IT-enabled business process. However, you might like to be aware that much of it will work for other kinds of IT projects. For example, excuse me, in aviation, transport, science, medicine, those kind of areas. And a lot of it will even work for projects that have very little IT in them at all, which is quite interesting. But the one we're talking about here is the one at the top, IT-enabled business process. This is the one that's got a rather poor record, and we need to boost this up. On the course that Howard and I are talking to you about tonight, it's a 2-day weekend course. These are the subjects that we cover. This won't surprise you. We have to look at the problem in some detail and understand it. We then start moving to a solution. We show you why BVMF's models and approach are very different and powerful. We show you the size and extent of BVMF and that you do not need to use it all. No, you don't. The way it's been designed, if you can just pick up on a few basic models and concepts and principles and use them in the right way, you can get a lot more value straight away, and then you build up your knowledge. This is the second part of what we will cover, the role of the business value maximization specialist, how to apply BVMF, because there are different ways of doing it. You can do it on a targeted way of implementation, which is what we cover on this course. There's a more systematic version which comes later on in the intermediate course, and obviously where would you get more information. This is roughly how the 2 days look. In actual fact, Howard and I are currently moving from 4 sessions a day to 5, so there'll be 10 chunks of work going on, packing even more content in for you. You can have a read of this later when you get the slides. I doubt if any of this will surprise you. This is the course in the grey highlight here that we're talking about, the 2-day weekend. You will get a certificate of attendance. We are very close to having a 3-day version of this, which has an exam, and you get a certificate of, a certificate of certification for passing the exam. Intermediate and advanced courses are well underway, and they will be happening, I would say, in early 2027. This is how it looks on the website. You can have a look, have a look if you haven't, at bvmf.info. It's a great website and gives you all the information that you might need. So the objective of the 2-day course we're talking about here is to raise whatever level of capability you currently have for maximizing value, success, and ROI, not by a little, but by a heck of a lot. So you can take that improved capability back to your team and help them to do the same by becoming a business value maximization specialist, which is a very facilitative kind of polyglot role. You speak all the languages and you help to bring everybody together rather than them all working in these silos, as rather tends to happen now. And we have too many cracks between the paving stones, if you like. So by working together, we will do 2 things. We will raise significantly, often dramatically, the likelihood of your project succeeding when, as I'm going to show you in a minute, ladies and gentlemen, the global statistics all show 75 to even 80% of projects fail to meet expectations. And this has been the case for many years. I'll show you these numbers in a minute. But the second thing we will do, after we've raised the likelihood that the project's going to succeed, we're also going to boost the amount of business value and return on investment that is going to be gained. That is the whole reason why we're doing all this work. Now, it is difficult because it's very complicated and it's being kind of accelerated by the massive uplift in the technology and the chip capability and expectations of businesses and organizations. So it's a very challenging role. And what Howard and I are really looking forward to doing, as indeed we are doing now, is helping teams and CIOs and businesses and organizations to be able to optimize this very tricky equation and come out the other end of the work with a lot more benefit, net benefit. Here's the statistic. You can Google this and look at all the researchers and you will see these numbers. Roughly 75% failed to meet expectations. You might say to yourself, so is part of the problem expectations are not aligned? Absolutely. The expectation gap is a big part of this number. And on the course, we will show you how to get a grip on that and do something about it by having business and IT and all the other people that are involved, because it isn't just those two parties, but to have everybody having their expectations much more aligned. So you don't have business saying, hey, where's our software? And then IT going, oi, where's our requirements? And you've heard this debate, let's say, to use a polite word. It's a bit of a battle, isn't it, going on in almost every organization across this planet these days. So we want to try and get this failure rate down. Yes, we do. And if we're working with some of you people, that'll be excellent. Some of the people we've trained are already reporting back to us some very good results, I'm glad to say. Here's a couple of pictures of how BVMF works. On the left, I've kind of alluded to this. If you see all these silos going on now, benefits management is a good thing. You should have that, absolutely. But this is far, far more powerful. You've got waterfall, or should we use agile? You've got business analysts, you've got project management, but they're all a little bit siloed. There's nothing that really coheres all these disciplines together to get everybody working to this common goal. We had one of our previous course attendees on last week, Saru, and she said exactly that, that she's found since she did the course that she's able to bring business and IT and everyone together around the common goals. She has diagrams, structures, and models that we have supplied and helped her to understand. And that was a brilliant comment. We were very, very pleased to hear that, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. On the right here, it's just another way to look at it. You've got a very ropey building that's in danger of falling over on the left, because you don't have the foundations of the understanding of value and how to propagate that up through the whole procedure. When you've got those principles over on the right and you've got some nice firm foundations in place, look how that building is so much stronger, and up the top, all that lovely value and success. Now, how does a business value maximization specialist work? Well, there are two aspects to this role, which I found myself developing as I came up through the 80s and the 90s and into the 2000s. One is the role is very polymathic. You, as a BVMS, will have a very good grasp, at least, if not direct experience, of business analysis, project management. What does the CIO want? What does the business want? How to test and develop, all these things. And you can help to bring these people together because you speak all their languages. This will partially depend on your professional maturity, but there's no reason at all why younger people starting out in their 30s, even 20s, cannot do this, because it's a mindset about us all working together and not having business shouting at IT, where's our software? And not having IT going, well, where's our requirements? Oh dear, oh dear. Well, you don't get those questions hanging in the air when you've got a BVMS in place. And of course, the BVMS has all the structures, models, and techniques that we supply and train in to be able to say, look, guys, This is what we're all trying to do. This is how the value arises. Now, if we do this, blah, 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 and it all comes together. And we've seen some very good results. And obviously, I've had some very good results going way back into the 1980s, where I was able to prevent these people shouting at each other and being much more effective, all working together, because that's what we should be doing. So now the extent, now don't get frightened by this, but we want to give you some idea of how significant BVMF is. And it's not the size of these numbers, but it is pretty extensive. As you can see, we have about 100 models. We have about 500 concepts, principles, guidelines, and techniques, and these all work together. And that is not the end of it either. There are various artifacts, there are artifacts, reasons for failure. We have a BVMF index, and we have a capability, a value capability, maturity assessment and model, which is not quite ready for public consumption, but it is very nearly ready. Now, the thing is, you don't need to worry about these numbers. We don't cover every single one of these 600 components on the core course. I'm just about to show you what we do cover, but what we do give you are the real basics, and you can start using those. And if you use the right ones in the right way, you can start getting much more value, and people's morale going up, which I love to see, because morale can be a bit dodgy in this area. So yeah, this is another way of looking at what we've got. We cover myths, misdemeanors, mantras, good and bad. We give you tips. We've got definitions of value, what it is, etc., do's and don'ts. This will not surprise you, but there is a lot of this stuff, and we're continually documenting it up for public consumption. This is going on. We have a pipeline. Howard and I have got a team of very helpful people helping us to document this. We also look at this, challenges, contentions, and contradictions. There are a lot of these, and I was very pleased to see this week online. I can't find it right now, but yeah, I think it was BA Doctor or one of the business analysis online forums was talking about contradictions and how to approach them, which I was very pleased to see, because this doesn't get a lot of airing, and there are a lot of paradoxes in this that people have not really bottomed out. Let me give you an example. I mean, there are loads, there are dozens of these, but a lot of the projects I've been on, the sort of change people seem to think that they've just got to take all the different ways that people are doing work now and make it one lovely, smooth business process. So it's nice and easy to put IT underneath. Well, that's not necessarily the best way to approach it. Often it might be, but you must question this. If you've got a salesman in an investment company that tends to be a bit off-piste, but boy, does he get or she get the results in, do you really want to restrict them by sort of straight-jacketing them into one standard process? Standardization is not always necessarily of net benefit for its own sake. So we should always be challenging, and we'll help you do that. Here are some of the artifacts I was talking about. We've got an index, we've got reasons for failure, and we track these reasons for failure to our models and techniques, so it all connects up. We've got a glossary, and yeah, we've got an IT effectiveness spectrum stroke business value capability assessment, which will be coming out very soon, certainly by early 2027. So the models describe the problem generally at a macro level. You've got to understand the problem. For example, we have a model at the beginning that shows this large expectation gap, and that immediately starts leading us towards, oh, well, how do we solve that? How do we align these misaligned expectations? And then we have concepts, principles, guidelines, techniques, and definitions, etc., which are more the micro level enactments, things you actually do once you've got the understanding of the problem to resolve the problem. And putting this all together, we work with you, BVMF works with you to help you go across what we call the river of challenge, this very turbulent river. And if you go across using like a stepping stone approach in layers, if you like, you will get a much better result. You see, the gap between business and IT that I don't think was ever properly being bridged is actually a whole set of layers or chain links or river stepping stones, if you like. And each one of those stepping stones or layers needs to work very well with the adjacent layer or stone. If you don't have that all connected up, you don't get value coming through. And this is what's been happening over the last several decades. These projects start off with not very much clear value defined. And then as the project happens, it gets worse. So we're talking about no loss of value, minimal loss of value here. That's what we're looking at. What is BVMF not? It's not a project delivery method. You've got all those, and BVMF works with all other methods. So you do not need to chuck away anything you're using, but you will find all these other methods if you're using Prince, Babok, PMBot, blah, blah. They will all become much more effective and much more joined up around value. So what's not to like? This is not simple paint by numbers, which the IT industry rather likes. No, it isn't. It's grown up thinking, and you need to be prepared for that. There's business strategy. There's all kinds of thinking in here. There's bits of philosophy, information theory, logic involved in this. But by the way, it's fun. I think Howard would agree. It's good fun, isn't it, Howard? Seeing this all really work, and where it's been so not working over many decades.
Yes, it's very informative, and obviously maybe Bilkis and or Dinesh can interject at the end, because obviously they've both been on one of the courses. But it's obviously a lot of information, and it's a lot of important stuff related to value. But we do have a little bit of fun along the journey, so it's not boring. So yeah, come and join us on one of our courses, and you'll find out.
Thanks. Yeah. We don't want to give too much away, do we? But actually, we have quite a lot of fun, if truth be told. But you come on the course and you'll find out. So, yeah, and we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're not reinventing a project delivery method. What we're doing is supplying all the missing pieces of the jigsaw, if you see it as a jigsaw. I hope that's clear. Now, these are just some of the questions that we answer on the course, not by any means the only questions, but these are the real biggies. What is value? What is it? How does it arise when you've got IT, you've got project, you've got people working away, you've got customers, you've got suppliers, blah, de, blah. Where's the value going to come from? You've got to understand this, or you're not going to get it, are you? Or you're not going to know if you have got it or not. What are the ingredients that need to be combined to get value? On the course, we use the metaphor of a value cake. If you're baking a cake, you need to know what those ingredients are. Eggs, flour, sugar, and what proportions do you put them in, and how do you mix them, and then what temperature do you cook at it? Do you cook it at? So we take you through all this. How do you avoid getting less value? How do you avoid losing value? And there's a lot of, how do you measure it? There's a lot of measurement and quantification going on, which you can do and you should do, which will help you to know how you're doing. You've got to know that. Now, on the course, these 15 models are the ones that we focus on most. These give you a fantastic foundation platform of understanding. Now, some of these words you will recognize, and a lot of them you will not, because these are fairly new, because these are what I saw was missing in our thinking. But of course, it's bolted to reality. I didn't just come up with this out of thin air. This came out of working 5 or 6 days a week, every week, in the real world as a programmer. Well, first a marketing information analyst, and then a programmer, and then a business analyst since the late 1980s. All the way through that journey, I'm out there every day and I'm comparing my day job experience with all the research and going, well, you know what? There's a lot of stuff missing here, guys. Here you go. There's a list of those models. You can have a read of this later on. What you might find most useful is we've described here at a high level what each of these models do. You can see the first one there. I was talking about that before. The 1934 model elucidates the expectation gap and shows you what you can do about this huge gap of expectations, which is a big problem. I don't, you know, I'm not surprised by the expectation gap. And I'm not surprised by the gap between business and IT. It is a function of the situation we're in, where business and organizations need stuff to be done, not just IT, but project process work as well. It takes a long time and they haven't got that time. So you've got a problem there. And it needs to be addressed and understood. When you address it and understand it, you can then really start doing something about it. All these other models here help you to do that and to get value propagating right the way through. We've got 15. There's the second lot. We go through all of these on the course and help you to be able to not only understand these models, but use them, apply them, and we give you plenty of techniques and context as well. Now, one important point, which I have already kind of said, BVMF does not replace all those other methods. No, it does not. It completes and augments them. It where you've got value dropping between the pavement cracks, if you like, that does not happen anymore. Very powerful. We don't try to reinvent the wheel. Why would we? I'm not saying whether all the other methods are good, bad, or indifferent. I think they are exactly that. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are a bit indifferent, and some of them seem to assume that if you do them, you will get a good result. And that is not true. Whereas if you follow a lot of this and you are able to, you're much more likely to be getting a good result for all that effort and time and money that you are putting into doing this work. Now, here are some previous course attendees. Bilkis is actually on, I believe, so she might be kind enough when I finish in a few minutes' time to make a comment, but she definitely enjoyed the course. And we also had Sharon. You can see concentration on value is unique. Yes, well, it is, because BVMF is all about value. We had Saru actually on this prelim last week, and she found that she could unite the business and IT around common goals of value, which was great. And we were delighted that she was able to come out of the course and apply it, and for her colleagues to experience the uplift. Now, let's just have a look at a few numbers. We're drawing nearly to a close now. Global IT spend is about $6 trillion at the moment, and that is going up big time fast, as you will not be surprised to hear. That's about £5.5 trillion. So look, if 75% of projects are failing to meet expectations, say we all can collaborate together and get that down just by a few percent even, what's that worth on a global basis? My goodness me, that is a huge number. And I think it's exciting that we could all do something about this. By the way, if you listen to other people, not just me, talking about the market and this failure rate, and there's plenty of those people on YouTube and around, you can just Google it. They all say, not only do they corroborate this number, the 3/4 plus, but they say this is probably going to get worse. And there are good reasons for that. I'm not going to talk about that now, but with digital transformation coming into the pot and companies being almost encouraged to bite off even more than they should be trying to chew, it's not surprising. So this is even more exciting for us, that if we can get BVMF out there, maybe we can stem this flow of failure and even get that 75% down rather than seeing it going up. So welcome to our 75% fail to 75% seed initiative. I actually kicked this off in September 2024 at DigiGov at a live event, which is on our YouTube channel. You can watch the recording of that and see that, as we said before, Howard and I said, it's good fun, this as well, by the way. We do have some fun. Oh, yes, we do, because people who are having fun do good work. And people who do good work are having fun. It works both ways. So what could we all do? Well, let's see if we can get the failure rate down. And by the way, Howard and I would really like, if we can save some of that huge amount of money, we would like to donate plenty to ethical causes. And the one that we most favour is getting poor homeless people off the street, because it's really not nice living on the streets. So we'll be looking to donate to that particular cause, not only that cause. So do you think we could all do something that the politicians can't do? I hope so. This just tells you about the next course is coming up in only about 3 and a bit weeks time in Peterborough, and there are still places. And at the moment you can get a 70% discount, which I think is pretty fair. And for £300 plus VAT, you can get 2 days and a very nice lunch. And I will say that this hotel in Peterborough we're using, it's the Marriott, Delta Marriott, is really, really nice. It's a lovely hotel, and you will enjoy being there, apart from being on our course and having a drink with us on the Saturday night. Here are some resources that you can look at. These links all work, and when Howard kindly sends you the slides, do click them. There's plenty of articles. There's a podcast. The video channel has got several of these prelims on it, as well as some of my live kickoffs. 75% fail to 75% succeed, and 4 IIBA webinar recordings going back to July 2020. So do have a look at these. This might answer some of your questions, give you a good start and a good window into the world of BVMF. I shall end with this irony. Value is the most important aspect of a project, as far as I was always concerned. Not the least important. That's not a criticism, it's just an observation. With us, value becomes the most important aspect. It drives, it works. Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm going to hand back now to Howard, who will read some questions and see if any of our previous course attendees that we have on this evening might be happy to make a comment or two. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, David. So at the moment we haven't got any questions, so you must have wowed everybody to the point that they're happy with that. So so well done. I am going if Bilkis, because originally I thought Bilkis had joined as an AI, but I'm not sure. So Bilkis, if you are actually on as yourself, yes, you are. Brilliant, fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought you were. I was just double checking. I was a bit nervous because I thought it was, you joined as your chat. So background, everybody. So Bilkis was on our November course last year in Stevenage in Hertfordshire. Bilkis was obviously on the slide with some very, very kind words. But Bilkis, in your own words, would you just like to say a few things about BVMF? It'd be very much appreciated.
Yeah, I'm currently on a program with customer compliance group with HMRC. And I've adopted that value first approach, and it's interesting. In fact, yesterday I was commended I was giving stars like, oh, this is a good approach because we know we want to go into a program, but we're like anchoring one of the directorates first and looking at what value are we actually in pursuit of? How does it align with our strategy? And how does it benefit the organization? Not just because we want to make a change. So that value first thing, I am an advocate for benefit realization, and this is new, but it's a more holistic and wider approach that actually helps you think of, like, it gives you that north star and helps you plan requirement aligning with what you actually what the business needs, not just a wish list or satisfiers. So it's a good program. I recommend it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bilkis. Anything, David, to add to that? Because obviously Bilkis was part of our November 2025 collective in Stevenage. Anything else to add to that, David, from yourself?
Well, obviously, I'm very pleased, to say the least, that Bilkis is having that experience. I do remember the course well, and I remember how she seemed to really enjoy it and engage, and made a lot of great contributions. And I guess I'm hoping that at some point in the future we might see Bilkis on the intermediate course, or well, actually doing the exam, Howard, for the the level 3, and that's great news. So thank you very much, Bilkis, for coming on and saying that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Bilkis. Also, Dinesh is on the call. I've just seen you come off mute, Dinesh. Obviously, you also on the November course in Stevenage. So yeah, if you've got any words, Dinesh, feel free. Now's your time. Oh, don't think we can hear you. You're off mute, but I can't hear you, Dinesh.
Where is he? Yeah, we're not hearing you, Dinesh. For some reason.
Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
you're coming through now.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry for that. So thanks for having me. The last time when I attended the course, I had a pretty good understanding of how the organization, like there are multiple departments like developers, like the clients, like what value can I add to the project? How I can bring all the organization, the client and the developers together and like produce a good value of the project, what we are giving it. So now I'm like capable that I can handle it and I can bring the projects like more value, and like I can bring like a pretty good collaboration with everyone. So it brings more value than, like as David said, like most of the projects are failing because of the communication or how the approach which they take. But after attending the BVMF, I'm like pretty good that I can take a good approach, like different methods, which gives more value to the like the project and everything. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Dinesh. So yeah, so again, Dinesh was on our course in November, and it was great to have you and to see you there. So thank you, Dinesh. Now there's no additional questions in the chat, David. So what we could do is we could either ask, if somebody wants to come off mic and ask a question, that's not a problem at all. If you think of a question after this, when we close this session off, feel free to reach out to myself or David. We're always happy to answer them. But if anybody wants to come off mic, we're quite happy to take a call.
Okay. Yes, as Howard says, guys, if you do want to ask a question at a later date, just give us a shout. Our details are on that last slide. Howard will be sending you the slides in a few days' time. Well, before I hand back to you, Howard, I'd just like to say thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope at some point, maybe some of this value uplift will be able to filter through you and more widely, as like Bilkis was saying. That would be fantastic. So have a good evening. Just handing back to you, Howard, to close off, please.
Perfect. Thank you, David. So yeah, so thank you very much, David. Obviously, he's put a lot of effort and time into BVMF over the years, and it's time to get that out there in the open. You know, I'm with that journey with David all the way. So we welcome you on one of the courses. Next one, as David said, is in Peterborough on the 21st, 22nd of March. If you can't make that one, we've got them one in Leeds in June and High Wycombe in October. So The discounts are really, really big at the moment. So obviously take advantage of those. So they over time they'll obviously go down. So take advantage of that. And we just welcome you to come on one of these courses, join us, learn something, have some fun, and let's change the industry together. So there's a lot of projects get delivered, but there's very little value. I've seen this for a long time as well. So when I met David, I thought, wow, thank you. Right, finally somebody's thinking about value, net benefit, ROI, and maximising that. So yeah, come and join us. And as I said, got any questions outside of this, please feel free to reach out, and any questions at all. We're always here to help and support. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Howard.
Cheers.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good
Thank you,
evening.
David. Thank you, Howard.
Cheers,
Have a nice
everyone.
day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
David
you.
and Howard.
Cheers,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Thank you, Ward.
Thank you.
Thank